Switzerland, so they had a near miss with a drone. Well, they had two. They had one with a drone and one with a base jumper with an emergency helicopter. And actually now if you park, where you go to a car park, you can pick up a transponder and take it with you, either as a base jumper or a drone user, so that the emergency helicopters know roughly where you are. That's quite impressive. They've got a lot of traction in the media with that. I mean, to be fair, they've also got a picture of a base jumper from a cockpit window. It's literally framed in the window.
Okay, see you guys. Ciao.
So he jumped off the top of the cliff, and the helicopter was coming to the base of the mountain to pick up a casualty. And effectively, as the helicopter was on the final approach to the landing site, the base jumper, they reckon he was about between 1 and 2 meters from going down. Jonathan, I'm going to get started. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start now. My name's John Franklin, and I'm head of the Safety Actions section at the European Aviation Safety Agency. And before we start this exciting session on the communications and safety promotion for drones, as the person responsible for the agency's new safety promotion strategy, I've just got a few minutes just to share with you the agency's vision on this important topic. So for those of us involved in aviation safety, promotion itself isn't necessarily something new to us. It even forms a key part of one of the SMS safety management pillars within the global rules at ICAO level. But what is new is that effectively for the first time since the helicopter was invented 3 generations ago, we have a totally new community starting to enter the aviation system. As a community within drones, you're pushing boundaries of technology, and at a more fundamental level, you're pushing the very consciousness of what we know and what we believe to be even possible. As a new community, you're bringing aviation into the hands of millions of new people, creating amazing opportunities. And when it comes to communications and safety promotion, what this means is that we have to significantly change the approach that we take to these activities. If we continue to do safety promotion the way we have traditionally for general aviation pilots, for commercial airlines, for other parts of the aviation system, that just isn't going to cut it in the new modern connected world, and in the world as drones increase and become a bigger part of the aviation system. If we're really going to reach our safety messages to all of these new people, we need to be bold and we need to be innovative in terms of how we approach our safety promotion and communication activities. In the same way that your work pushes boundaries in the drones community, so must our communications activity as well. So what is EASA's vision in terms of promotion and communications for drone safety? The introduction of a European regulatory framework naturally needs coordination of the promotional activity at a European level as well. And that new activity in terms of safety promotion for drones needs to have collaboration and innovation at its very heart. Under the EASA Safety Together framework, we provide a way for all of us in the drones community, with other aviation users, with the rest of the aviation system, to coordinate our efforts towards that same common goal: safe and sustainable drone operations that have a good, positive long-term future. From an agency perspective, our initial focus quite naturally will be to help all these diverse range of people in the drones community to understand the new drone rules themselves, and then obviously depending on what they do with their drones, to help them understand what their role is in safe operations and helping preserve safety for the wider European system. We're also working a great deal with colleagues in the different national authorities so that we can support the transition from national rules, and these rules that everybody who already operates in the drones community know and understand, and how does that transit to the new European rules. We look forward to working on safety together with all of you in the drones community so we can share our experiences, the safety challenges we face, the safety challenges other people face integrating drones into the European aviation system. And EASA will provide a coordinated European approach to the provision of information on drone rules and drone safety in general, in a way that all of the key messages can be both translated in terms of international languages, so that we're not just using everything in English and missing whole pieces of the community, and also translated in terms of meeting the specific needs of all the different parts of such a diverse community of aviation people. The more we can harness that power of collaboration and communicate our safety messages with one strong voice, the more people we can reach, the more our community can thrive, and really ensure that within the drones community and the aviation system beyond, that Europe really is better when we do safety together. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Jonathan Nicholson, who's going to lead this panel on safety promotion and communication. And Jonathan's from the communications department at the UK CEA and has been doing some really innovative work in terms of drones. So, Jonathan.
Thank you, John. Just before we start the panel, just to reiterate exactly what John said there, that in the UK for the past couple of years, we've been running a very high-profile campaign on drone education because we really think that is one of the key ways to reach people and educate them on how to fly safely. We can have as many rules as we like, but if people don't know what they are, then we're achieving nothing. And we've taken a very proactive approach for that. It's the biggest safety campaign we've been running in the UK across aviation for the past couple of years. We've put considerable resource into it, and it's been effective. We have reached people and seen a step change in people's awareness and behaviours, but it is not finished. There is a long way to go. In the UK, we still have a considerable amount of near misses between drones and other things in the air. So although awareness is rising, incidents are still rising, so there is a job for all of us to do. So let me move to the panel and we'll kick things off. So what I thought we'd do first of all is literally very quickly go round to the panel so they can introduce themselves and tell you who they are. And Lars.
So I'm Lars. I'm the founder of Formula FPV and creator of the Drone Racing World Series, creating shows Probably you've seen them in pavilion number 12 yesterday, or today, or tomorrow.
So my name is Tim Searle. I'm a management consultant from Space Tech, so I typically work on space, but I also have quite a big interest in the drone field, and I'm working on a project called dronerules.eu, which is the one-stop shop for all drone regulations across the EU, and also the new European regulations.
Hello, my name is Joseph McDermott. I work at M&C Sartsheet Public Relations, which from the title you might guess is a public relations agency within a wider marketing group. So the reason that I'm here is obviously we work a lot on consumer behavior campaign changes, consumer behavior change campaigns, and particularly with the Civil Aviation Authority and with Jonathan. So we were responsible, alongside Jonathan, for 400 Foot Britain, which hopefully a few of you might have heard of, and we possibly will touch on later in the panel.
So my name is Sophie Jacobs. I work for Intel Corporation in government relations. Intel is in the drone space mostly active in the commercial field and also in the entertainment segment of drone light shows. In this panel, we won't speak about the commercial applications. However, we have a lot of experience also as Intel working as a private company together with public sector and with other stakeholders in communication campaigns.
My name is Wiebe de Jager. I'm two things basically. I'm a commercial drone pilot, so I do a lot of drone flying and making beautiful pictures. And I write about drones on my website dronewatch.nl, a Dutch language website. Every day I post an article about drones, the application of it, regulations, name it, and I've probably written an article about it. And this morning I checked my Google stats and I had about 250,000 unique visitors in the past year. So I actually reach quite a lot of people by just sharing the knowledge, which I think a key thing in this discussion.
Cool, thank you everybody. So that's who we are. One of the things we've been asked to talk about first of all is who's the audience for this work, for the education and communication work. Initially probably Lars and Weber as drone users and people in the drone community. We traditionally think about this communication work as aiming at the consumer user, the non-professional user, if you like. Do you think that's where we should aim most of this work, or should we widen that?
Well, of course, from my perspective, when you look at our audience, we aim at kids from the age of 6 up to the year of 16, 17, 18. And we provide them all kind of options to grow their talents and skills with drone racing. So yeah, of course, if we are all making rules here, I think you will need to think about reaching out to that audience as well.
Yeah, I think that you cannot really typically say that this is a drone user. In the old days, you had the model flyers. They went to their airfields. Most of the time, they were organized. You could really point at those people and say, oh, you're a model flyer. With drone users, there's no such thing. It's people that like to make a beautiful picture. It's the father that buys a nice drone for his kids. There's no such thing as a drone user, I think. And that is problematic from a communications perspective.
Yes, certainly in the UK, when we started this work, we took it from the view that we had to almost attract every member of the general public, because potentially they could be a drone user, or they could be one tomorrow. A drone user can go into a shop. By the time they've charged the battery for their drone, they are a drone user. So we've very much taken the view that it could be anybody in the general public. If they're not today, they could be tomorrow. Tim, is there anything from your aspect, thinking about more of the privacy stuff as well, that you think there's a particular type of drone user that we should be educating?
Yes, so if we look at our website, dronerules.eu, we also have quite a large number of users, 15,000 unique users per month and around 200,000 total, because we have all the regulations available in all the EU languages. And what we typically find is it's a 50-50 split of the actual of the pilots between professional and recreational pilots, so to speak, but we also have a huge number of our users through social media also. We have around 30,000 followers throughout our different channels. we find that a lot of them are the general public. So it's something that has to be addressed always, that for acceptance, or we know from previous panels that acceptance is maybe not the best word to use, but in terms to have a positive outlook from the public, we really need to be communicating the benefits and not the negative aspects of privacy, and at the same time educating users so that they're able to best keep in mind the general public when they are flying, so you maintain a positive attitude throughout the whole community and also throughout the general public.
So basically what we're saying is then that Joe and I have got to try and reach every single person in Europe and try to educate them on every aspect, so more work for us. So one of the other questions we were asked to look at is how regulators, industry, drone bodies, drone associations can work together. Sophie, did you want to talk about experiences of being a commercial company and actually helping sort of get messages out to the wider public?
Yeah, sure. So we have done, as Intel, but also with other private companies, we've done multiple campaigns working with governments, educators, NGOs, civil society organizations around several topics. One of them, for instance, is the Safer Internet campaign, which is an annual campaign launched by the European Commission, and it spreads all over Europe in different member states. And then we have joined the campaign to educate children and went along on schools in the Netherlands and Belgium, for example, to teach kids about how to use the internet responsibly, how to use social media, how to be aware of your privacy online. And so that's one of the examples of communications campaigns we've done outside of our normal, customer base.
Which could relate across to drones or anything else.
We haven't done a particular drone thing yet. We might in the future. I'd be very happy to. But this is one of the examples where the collaboration actually worked really well. And I think you can do outreach in a way that, first of all, you combine, of course, different perspectives. You combine different groups of people everybody has a different outreach group. And also you combine a lot of funding.
Joe, is there anything from the UK that you particularly, maybe the retail industry that we can engage with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's basically responsibility probably at every level within kind of the drone purchase cycle of how do you create responsible users from, as you say, a member of the general public can go into a shop, buy a drone, and within charging the battery is now a fully fledged drone user. No issues, straight up there. So there needs to be education at point of purchase, at point of opening the box, and you need to have it so that there's an awareness that in order to be a responsible drone user, before I start up this drone, turn it on, I need to consider what my flight is going to do and where I'm going to do it. So as you were saying as well about a wider discussion amongst the general population, so there is, your audiences are drone users, potential drone users, but also everyone else, people who are perhaps never ever going to pick up a drone, but need to be aware of what responsible drone flight looks like in order to be aware of their own rights in that as well, because within the drone code that the Civil Aviation Authority has, you don't fly within, I think it's 150 feet of property. So you, as a non-drone user, have cause for complaint if someone does fly within that. That's them not being a responsible drone user. So you should be aware of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing we've learned, being a relatively poor regulator, and probably relates across lots of other regulatory bodies, is that engaging with a commercial organisation, if done the right way, we've initially kicked off the campaign with NATS, our ANSP, who were very helpful in helping to set up things like websites and other materials for us. And also we ran a major schools campaign with Amazon Prime Air. And done the right way, obviously as a regulator we can't endorse or be seen to doing stuff with other companies, but done the right way, they put significant resource into that, a lot of resource that we would never have, that enabled us to run that campaign in every school in the UK, which reached thousands of people that we would never have reached. Is something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think, well, the interesting thing is that often if it's about education of the general public, that people tend to think about brochures and radio commercials and stuff like that. Very, very expensive most of the time, and it's really sending, old paradigm of sending. Interesting thing, we just kind of concluded that there's no such thing as a general drone user, but interesting thing is that the people, after they charge the battery and made the first flight, often they discover that it is, well, quite hard actually to find out. They discover it's difficult to make a nice picture. So what they do is they have a tendency to organize themselves online. There's lots of, only in the Netherlands, there's lots of Facebook groups and forums where you can see lots of people coming together, discussing all kinds of topics, and I think that could be an interesting starting point for your all the communications, that people have the tendency to organize themselves, but the mindset that you have to have is that you are able to kind of reach out to those communities, either by influencers, people with lots of visibility in that area, or just by participating in those online fora.
Yeah, certainly in the UK we've taken the view that we have to use as many channels as possible to reach these people, and certainly social has been very effective and worked very well. Lars, we talked about kids and getting them in early. Do you think it pays to get to potential drone users at a very young age?
Yeah, of course, because that's the moment where you can literally give them the information they need to know at the earliest stage. What I noticed from the from the last two comments was, yes, you can give information from the point of purchase, but if you look at drone racing as a global sport right now, it is all about customizing your own drone. So everybody buys parts from China, from the US, from any country, and they build their own drones. So how are we going to be able to give information about safety or rules, etc., from that point of purchase when you buy a couple of arms at website A, when you buy motors at website B? So who is going to be responsible if you want to have one responsible organization? I don't have the answer. But that's what's happening now. That there aren't really retailers with drone racing components, parts, etc. There are just websites that have a lot of components that you can purchase. And that, I think, will be a challenge to deal with. The thing that we've said with communication, especially with young people, we are talking now about Facebook. They are using TikTok, you know? So how are you all, or we all, are going to make campaigns that are not a leaflet, that are not a web page with all kind of text and a picture on it, but how are we going to make viral campaigns that teach them in their language, on their devices, on the moments that they want to read it or see it, the things that we think are important, and that I think we all need to realize that this group of new users that are very talented, that learn very quickly, I think it's very urgent to now think about a way, or think about many ways, to get them educated in the way that they like.
I think I need to employ my daughter then, I think is the answer for this. Joe, coming at it from an agency, dealing with tech, dealing with a lot of companies who are out there trying to be heard in a busy marketplace, what do you see people using these days to really try and reach the audience?
Yeah, I mean, there is still a place for traditional outreach, such as leaflets, as I say, like putting it in front of someone's face in a box where they actually actively can't move away from it. Perfect. And then you're completely right in that with different audiences, you have to go to their channels. So you need that mix of owned, earned, and owned, earned, and paid for advertising. So you have to have the sites to direct them onto. You have to work with retailers in that respect, that if they're buying, motors from retailer A and arms from retailer B, then you work with them, because ultimately that you have to just spread yourself across all of those various different channels, because ultimately for the retailer, if drones become a nuisance and public sentiment turns against drones, they're going to find it much harder to sell drones or drone parts, because people are going to be unable to use them in certain areas. So there's an element where we have to, make our point to those guys first, and then we will make our point to the general public, or they will help us make our point there. Obviously, social channels are a massively important part of that. I think what's the main takeaway for people who are planning to use social campaigns is that organic social campaigns alone will not move the needle. You must put paid spend behind it. Every social channel, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything like that, is all set up to be monetized. Mark Zuckerberg has been spending his entire career working out how to make money from Facebook, and this is how he makes money. So if you want to move the needle, you must put some spend behind that.
Yeah, and certainly I'd support that. So, yes, you may not be able to work with every manufacturer and every website, but certainly what we've found is in the big bad world of website tracking, it's relatively easy to start putting adverts in people's browsers that are related to things they've searched for. People searching for buying a drone, it's to put some paid advertising behind tracking that to put people in people's browsers is very good. Now, we will have one set of rules for Europe from EASA coming forward, which in a way makes it easier for people to understand, rather than, because people do move with their drones, we know that, but also means we in some cases have to start again because some of the rules will change. Tim, you're already out there putting a Europe-wide kind of message out there and reaching across Europe. Have you got any hints or tips for people in that area?
Yeah, one of the things that's difficult is that, like we've previously spoken about before, the way we consume information has dramatically changed. We want things quicker, faster, and shorter. So we have a whole new regulation, and for the bulk of this room who are policymakers or have an interest in policy, yes, we're going to read through the regulation. But for the average drone user who goes and buys his drone, he wants to know, where can I fly, where can I not fly, what are the rules, and I need it in quick format. So one of the challenges is, how do you communicate a complex regulation into a quick format? Can I fly here? Can I fly close to the airport? And one of the ideas I had when I first received the questions for this panel is that maybe the answer lies in something like a chatbot that automatically engages with some of the younger people, where they can, let's say, chat with a computer or a machine, where it tells them directs them exactly to the part of the legislation that they want. On our website at the moment, we have 3 levels of regulation. So we look at it on an overview level, then a semi-in-depth, and then we have really a 1,000 input spreadsheet, more or less, that's printable as a PDF for each country that people can really look in deep through. But what really people want to know is, how high can I fly it, where can I fly it, and maybe a simple chatbot with a machine at the back of it gives the people the answer they want without having to go in depth, and then that way we get across the message and across the regulation in an easier way than simply just saying, go and read this document, because people simply will not do it.
No, we know that, and in the UK we've tried to literally keep it to 6 images and no more, because we are dealing with everything from a 16-year-old kid to an 80-year-old person who, for various reasons, has no incentive to spend time actually researching or getting stuff. So I just wanted to move to one of the questions that had come in, actually, because it does touch on something that I wanted to raise. We're very much look at this in a In the UK, we have a phrase carrot and stick. So we very much approach drone education with encouraging people to fly, wanting them to use their drone, but do it in a safe way. One of the questions that's been raised is what about enforcement? Do we also need to prosecute people, use the laws which exist to help enforce as well? So let's go to the drone guys first. As users of drones, what do you think? Should we be actively enforcing the rules and getting the police involved as part of the education process?
Well, I don't really like that, and that is mainly because the sport is about a hobby. It is about being creative. It is about taking new challenges. And of course, the users, the pilots, need to follow the rules. But if you look at countries such as the Netherlands, Belgium, France, the police are doing really crazy stuff there. And also, they don't also know all the rules. So yes, I think it is just at a normal situation. If you get a speed ticket, etc., just do it like that, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, I think there is some level of enforcement, not that much. But what I think is missing is actually the communication about the enforcement. Because in the Facebook groups and the discussion media where I participate in, I see that lots of responsible drone pilots, they are kind of upset about the fact that those who are really kind of ignoring the laws are getting away with it, or at least visibly getting away with it. Perhaps they get fined, but no one knows about it. And that is something that upsets lots of drone users.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yes, and I think that's the same as well for professional media. Like in Holland, we have RTL, we have the NOS, etc. And when you look at their item on TV, then I just know it's a drone shot, but I also know that it's totally not allowed to fly there. So even if those organizations use a drone that way, I really feel like what's happening over there.
Okay, thank you. That's good feedback. We've spoken a lot about needing different channels, different routes to audience. Sophie, is there anything that, as a large multinational organisation, that you can add about use of channels and directing them at the right audiences?
Well, I think that we really try to adapt this to the type of audience. I think here we're talking about hobbyists and enthusiasts and a lot of young people. Like was said before, we need to use modern ways of communicating with them. We need to use definitely social media. The people are very used to very visual type of communication, so any type of campaign needs to, address the rules in a fun and entertaining way. You kind of pull in the audience like that, but at the same way you can discuss the more serious topics like how to use a drone within the law. And you need to be very much, I think, creative in your outreach. And I think also the competitions that was mentioned before is a great way to not only pull in the young people, but also their parents or caretakers or the teachers to draw their attention and point out the other side of the fun use of using drones. Is that how to use it responsibly?
So, brilliant link into one of another questions we've had, which is traditional media helping or hindering the drone industry? I'd probably say both. Joe, did you want to talk about 400-foot Britain and how we briefly have what that is, and also how we actually engaged the national media in that?
Yeah, so 400-foot Britain was a campaign that we worked with the Civil Aviation Authority on, which the main focus was to get people to be aware of the drone code, and specifically the drone code rule that you must not fly above 400 feet. So with any behavior change, it's a case of what behavior do you want people to start or stop, and then from there you work out exactly who your audience is and how you best reach those. I think what worked, where we went with 400-foot Britain was working out how do we get this message across without using, as Jonathan says, the stick, and instead we can use the carrot, and making it something that people can be happy to engage with rather than feel it's a chore to have to engage with and have to work out. So we came up with a photography competition where people in the UK would submit their images taken at 400 feet, the best images of Britain, so whether that's kind of the landscape, rugged natural landscape, or amazing kind of images of beautiful buildings across the country, and put those into a central place where we can kind of say, look, at 400 feet, you can get these wonderful, these brilliant images. You don't need to go any higher. You don't need to go beyond that. This is responsible drone use. I think the main thing as well was that with 400 Foot Britain, we never shied away from the fact of why we put the competition there and why we built 400 feet into the core mechanic of what we were doing, which was to be a responsible drone user, you must fly at 400 feet and you can take those pictures. Part of the major success of it, I think, in engaging the members of the public was that it was to be a good drone user, you must do this, rather than if you do XYZ, fly above 400 feet, you're a bad drone user. So again, stick, not carrot. Sorry, carrot, not stick, even. And in terms of, obviously, social, it's an eminently shareable campaign in that people can go on, submit their photos and their images straight to the public gaze. And for traditional media as well, where obviously they rely very heavily on visual elements. This was a photo story, a photo campaign, and speaking with the picture desks at various different nationals was, to be honest, in some cases, it was a pleasure really, because they were so keen to receive these images, which were obviously wonderfully shot by semi-professional or exceptionally talented amateur photographers.
Cool, thank you.
I think it was a brilliant campaign, and I cannot stretch enough, also in the Netherlands, but also across the European Union. I think it would be a good idea actually to set up such a campaign European-wide when we are facing the new drone rules. It would be fantastic. It would bring out so much creativity, and there's no better way to bring across a message than with passion and creative messages.
It's good to hear that it's obviously stretched across and outside of the UK. That is brilliant to hear. And I think the reason for that is that it's, as you say, it's so simple as a campaign idea, and it's so visual as well. So it doesn't rely actually on messaging. It's a numerical, it's 400 foot, and the images that come with it. So there's very little extra messaging that is needed around that.
Cool. Thank you. Right, so we are pretty much out of time. So I'll very quickly go round, and if the panel, I'll put you on the spot now. So this is your chance for one very quick view as to what we should be doing in this space. So, Lars.
Yeah, so I would like to point out for the growth and the future of the sport of drone racing is that you all create information that is meant for children to understand. Because if they understand, we understand. If you turn it around, that's a difficult situation there. We've proven that with our educational programs, where the dads and the moms were coming to us and they say, hey, now I really get it, instead of reading 50 pages. So that is really the thing, and especially for the long term, for the future, the new pilots, please consider that.
I would like to build on that. I think it's a great idea to go with a simple information, simple pieces of information that everybody can understand, and I think different formats are the best way to achieve that, whether it's few videos or for the regulation side, getting some form of messaging where you can ask about specific regulations relevant to you. I think it's important to have a simple, clear message that also has some fun aspect to it that attracts people to do such a thing. Otherwise, if there's no fun element or there's no educational element, people will not pursue it.
Cool. I think the one thing I'd ask you to take away for running any kind of communications or behavior change campaign is that it's not enough to say what someone must do. You have to tell them why they should be doing that. So, as I say, 400 Foot Britain, do not fly above 400 feet. The why is that you want to be a responsible drone pilot. Or similarly, it's not, if you think about other campaigns such as buckle your seatbelt, it's not enough to say what you must do, buckle your seatbelt, you must say why, it will save lives. So add the why in, because that's the area that builds the trust.
Sophie?
Yeah, I think for me, a key message I want to bring is collaboration. So for regulators or governments to bring across very serious messages about regulation, think about using different type of stakeholders. Think about using private sector, think about using NGO, think about using bloggers and community builders around drones. There will be so many different ideas and different creative outlooks from all the different stakeholders that I think you can build the best campaigns collaborating with a broad range of people.
Okay. I think that as an institution, you will need to learn to talk back to people. An example, I get lots and lots of emails or questions on Twitter about, oh, Wiebe, can you tell me, am I allowed to do this, or can I fly there, or whatever. And I'm answering those questions all the time because I think someone should do it. When I ask a question to the Dutch CAA, I never get an answer on Twitter. And that is problematic, because in this new paradigm of communication, you need to be able to talk back, not only send, but also receive. That's my final remark.
Thank you. Yeah, resourcing is always an issue for that kind of thing. But yes, I absolutely agree. And talking of resourcing, I'm going to finish with an answer to one last question here, which is, what about international TV advert spots? To which the answer to that is, if you're paying, yes, please, because they are very expensive. So thank you to the panel. Thank you very much for all your good answers and your good input there. I think it is a long-term issue. It is not something we're going to solve overnight. I think back to the UK and our problems with drink drivers. We started that 50 years ago and probably only solved it about 15 years ago. It is a long-term issue. It really is. And I think now we are going to hand over to EASA for the winners of a student competition. Does that make sense? They are on the way.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's very easy because EASA will hand over to Rob Oyser and Tineke Bakker van der Veen for them to present the results of the winner student competition. So please, Rob, Tineke.
We're just going to wait 2 seconds where Rob is. They're trying to find him right now. So I'll briefly start with why we're doing this while Rob is coming here. So as we've discussed over the last couple of days, it's really important that we work in this innovative industry with the next generation. And that's why we were so happy to have also the students participate here in the last couple of days and have really shown us where they think the future will go. And without them, of course, we will absolutely be lost, because they are the next generation of innovators, entrepreneurs. They will make the difference. So therefore, it's key that we embrace them. So, Rob, please join me on stage.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, innovation. We talked a lot about innovation. Tineke talked about innovation. The commissioner talked about innovation. All the panels talked about innovation. And we saw a lot of big companies here on the trade floor with their innovations. But it's not only big companies like Tineke's company who showed their stuff, but there are also a lot of knowledge institutes in Europe who do a lot of good work on drones technology. Also in the Netherlands, we have brilliant universities, and our ministry thought, well, they are not a company, so they should have a different place and a different spotlight on this Amsterdam Drone Week. So we asked 6 of them to present their ideas in the room next to here and show them off to you. And they did. And they are really brilliant ideas. And we made a sort of competition, and you could vote. And you voted a lot on these ideas. And one of them came out on top of the list. And now I'm going to present the winner of this competition. Thank you. And the winner is the Technical University of Delft. Can I ask you on stage? Well, congratulations, congratulations. You need both hands, or okay? Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Can I give you the floor to present or say a few words on your idea?
Sure. Yes. Actually, I would like to take the opportunity. So thank you very much for voting us on our system. But I would like to take the opportunity to make a point now, actually, because we designed this drone for the Medical Express Outback Challenge in Australia, and this challenge really pushed us to do all the new innovations that we did. For instance, the one we presented these 2 days is the algorithm to avoid autonomously other air traffic, and this was incited by this challenge. And now I'm going to tell you something that I have not told to anyone else in this room. Freek, can you please turn around? Yes. So here you can see the signatures of not only the challenge, the people from the challenge, but also the people from EASA who were there at the challenge. So EASA, for the uninformed, is like the Australian EASA, and they were there, and they were not only standing there, but they were actually helping in forming this new regulation and pushing us to make this new kind of algorithms, for instance, for the avoidance, and to make it happen. And I would like to ask the audience why we have to do this in Australia, because we were not able to do this kind of tests or even challenges in the Netherlands, and for that matter in Europe. But we have to go to Australia to do that, and there the regulator is actually helping us. So I would like to make a point. Please help us as universities to make this process go smoother. Now I do see improvement. We did, for instance, the VLOS flight here in the Netherlands just a few weeks ago, and things are getting possible now, but I think we have to move a little bit faster. So please help us make this incredible technology possible.
So, of course, we're not just going to announce winners, because if someone is a winner, then you deserve a reward. So, on behalf of Boeing, of course, we feel that with all the innovation that was just mentioned, you are the game changers for tomorrow. You are the key people that, think about outside of the box, challenge us on a day-to-day basis, and will also help us to continue our business for the next 100 years. So therefore, we really appreciate all of the effort that you've put into it, and we would like to invite you for a private tour, also in the Netherlands, as well as potentially abroad, and also to award you with support on working on your business case and helping you via coaching to really take this product to the next level. So I hope to welcome you in Amsterdam soon.
And maybe on top of that, I would like to give you a place next year in the big hall of the Amsterdam Drone Week and have your own stands. So I'd like to hand you this one. And we hope to see you next year.
Team effort.
I have the easiest job today because before I pass the floor to Matthew for the very important Amsterdam Declaration, just for the record, for the congratulations to the students of TU Delft. They are leaving the room now. Just for the record, you can do these kind of things in Europe. Huh? I know that you liked going to Australia, and I can certainly understand that. But there are countries in Europe where you can do this type of experiments as well. So you don't need to export all your knowledge to Australia necessarily, and EASA would be more than happy to support you in those things. So for next year, for the Thank you. No, but seriously, I think there are specific constraints in different countries. The density of population in the Netherlands is such that there are a certain number of things that you cannot do compared to the density of population in Australia, for sure. But there are other countries in Europe and also in the Netherlands where you can do a number of things.
I will email you.
Yeah. But yes, please email you. Yes, please do. No problem. Okay. So now, what was I going to say? Matthew, the floor is yours.
Well, congratulations to that student from Delft. That is the first time I've seen Patrick lost for words. Well done. So he's left the floor clear to me. I love that. I can do all the things that Patrick, now you should have said to say that this has been absolutely a wonderful conference. And thank you so much to you and your EASA team for everything you've done to bring it off. I see Pekka Hentu's BDI in the second row, so I don't want to say it's the best conference ever after Helsinki, but it's every bit as good as Helsinki. Long may these conferences be a great meeting point for the drone community across Europe and indeed the world. Thanks to Rob and the Dutch government for everything. Thanks to Rai. Thanks to all the colleagues at the Commission, Joachim and team. You've done great work. And I think the Amsterdam Drone Week also must be deemed a success. It feels like it's Friday, but it's only Wednesday, and it goes on. So congratulations for that. This is, in fact, my third drone conference since I returned to DG Move in 2016. And it's fascinating to look year by year how the debate moves on as innovation advances, as the markets develop, as the shape of the necessary regulatory framework emerges from the mist. And I actually thought it would be my last drone conference because I will be now focusing 95% of my time on road safety and sustainable urban mobility. But very much to my surprise, the issue which has, well, at least grabbed most of my attention this week has been the urban dimension. And I go back to the excellent presentation made right at the start by Uber and then followed up by Airbus and others about the connections this makes at the urban level. And so much of the excitement, I think, is coming this week from cities. Excuse that personal comment, but I think it's relevant because I'd like to be back. Now, we've done the usual draft declaration for the conference. And again, it's useful to look back at the different declarations from Riga to Warsaw to Helsinki and now to Amsterdam, I hope, to again mark where we've come to and where we're evolving. Of course, there's some changes, there's some similarities, we're picking up some similar points. But the first question to you all is, do you think you attended the same conference that we thought you attended? I hope you, yes from Patrick, that's good. Have you had a chance to have a look at this? And I now slightly cover my eyes. Are there any comments that people would wish to make about our draft declaration? I should add, as you ponder that, it doesn't commit anybody. No one is here going to go home and have to say, well, we signed up to such and such a declaration. It is very much our collective take on what we've heard. So don't feel you're bound into anything, but anyone want to comment? Yeah. Can we get a microphone over? And I'm sorry, I can't really see who it is, so say who it is and speak up. Peter!
Thank you for finally being given the chance to ask a question or say something. This app stuff, I don't like very much.
This what stuff?
Using the app.
Oh, the app stuff. Okay.
To go to the panel.
Well, I'm not putting that in the declaration.
No. As far as the declaration is concerned, I would like to see a bit more aggressiveness as far as standards are concerned in the open category as well as for the specific category and the standard scenarios. It looks more like a wish list. I think we should do more.
Okay. Any other comments? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, we industry,
Hi.
we who are manufacturing drones, we would like to stress the need to maintain a bit of balance. We understand the importance in those type of declaration to go further, but we also need those implementing rules in order to provide our customers with drone enabling service market. So.
I understand. I hear you, as they say, and I'm thinking. Anybody? Well, let me try to respond. Peter, on your point on standards, I hope aggressiveness is in the eye of the beholder, as is beauty. I think we've been quite upfront about the importance of standards in this declaration. I think we have a reference under point 3 for the need for standards. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Point 2, excuse me, the third point of point 2, delivering the appropriate standards. And we also have a strong point in the conclusions, referring to developing European product standards for drones and other standards to meet European performance requirements. Taking account of another comment that was actually made to me beforehand, and I think it will go, I doubt very much, Peter, you disagree with this. What about adding at the end something along the lines of taking full account of the global dimension? And that would both then reinforce Europe's part in that, and of course, stress that we need to take account of the global situation as well. I hope that meets your wishes. And to the second point, on the behalf of the manufacturers, I think possibly we have been a little bit light about, we've talked too much about member states and too much about other institutional players. And maybe, would you accept in point 2 of the conclusions, where we talk about developing in close cooperation with member states and all stakeholders, and to find yourselves and others, not just the manufacturers there. So I'm now looking for body language as to whether that works for you all. Yeah, I see some nodding heads. I like that. Yeah. The brilliant Giancarlo Crivellero has been listening to me, first time for everything. And Giancarlo, did you manage to get that down? And even more importantly, can you project it up on the screen so we can see what damage I've done? As if by magic. Okay, there's the proposed changes. People want to take a photograph, that's nice. Not of me, but of the declaration. I'm just looking around to see if anyone wants to say anything else. I think not. I think we have a deal. Thank you for those 2 comments, which were well made. And didn't think I'd be saying this, but I hope you'll have me back next year. Thanks very much to everyone.
Can you hear me? Yes. It is now my turn to try to conclude on those very extensive 2 days. I am like you, Matthew. It's the third conference that I attend. I've seen a step change in the sense of reality. You know, the first conference in Warsaw was, you know, what are the expectations? The second conference in Helsinki was, you know, more focused on that is what we need to see in the regulations that you are preparing. This conference is about, you know, now how can we make it work? And what are the dimensions that we need to take care of in order to make it work? So we had discussions on social acceptability. We had discussions on communication. We had discussions on what is the level of risk that would be acceptable if we want to have a wider range of operations. So this is the age of maturity that we are reaching, I think, with this conference. And I hope that we can continue to work together in order to be more and more operational, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. The operations, the services, the business which can be made thanks to our regulations and thanks to our work. What we heard as well is that, of course, in this domain more than in others, the speed of change is extremely high. And that's certainly one of the key challenges for us regulators. How can we cope with this speed of change? Do you know how much time an EASA regulation, a normal EASA regulation, takes between the day at which it is started and the day at which it is published in the official journal of the European Union? Any views on this? How much time is it needed for EASA regulations? 8 years? Someone else? We are not talking about ICAO, just to be clear. No idea? 5? Okay. So it's 4 years. 4 years in average. And I insist, it's when we start a rulemaking activity and the day it is published. And there are incompressible kind of delays for the publication and things like that, but 4 years on the average. Which, for the industry, is it something that you can live with for the drone community? Can you live with a cycle in which, you know, what we discussed today, the resulting regulations, use space, for instance, can you live with the fact that it's going to be published in 4 years? Of course not. Do you know how much time we needed before we launched the work on drones, on the drones, the first drone regulation, and the day hopefully it's going to be published? 2 years. 2 years. And I consider that it was a difficult exercise because obviously the community which was engaging with us, and when I say us, it's the commissions, the member states, it's all the regulatory authorities, was quite different from our usual community of airspace users, aircraft manufacturers, and so on and so forth. So there was also a learning curve on both sides to learn how to work together. But this shows, and it was mentioned by the commissioner yesterday, this shows that when we want, we can make it happen. And I am really committed for our activities to be as quick as necessary in order to make change happen, in order to keep pace with the technological development, and in order to make sure that we can accompany you in the development of your business. This also means that there are things on which you can't have everything. So one of the, difficulties that we always have is that people tell us your regulations are far too complex, which is true. They are far too complex. But when you look at the difference between the original text, which is coming from EASA services, and the end text, which is published, I can guarantee to you that there is 50% of the complexity which is coming from the discussions on top of our text. Because in our text, you don't cover this or this specific aspect of this type of business, and in my country, I have this and that problem, so can you capture it into the text? So we need all of us to make an effort to work together in order to have simple rules and to have a fast rulemaking process. And can I count on you on this? That we are able together to deliver rules in a fast manner and which will be performance-based. Can I count on you for that? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes? Mild success, I have to say. We discussed also about U-Space, UTM. I think we are learning a lot, and we mentioned that there are a number of projects going on in Europe at the moment, 50-something, I think. And now I think it's time, and that's what you have seen in the declaration, now it's time for us to start to capitalize on all of those projects and to take what is common, what are the commonalities, and start to look at how we can put them into a framework which would give a certain certainty for the development of the field. And I think we are getting there. We will learn a lot in the next months on the architecture in particular, but also on the different types of responsibilities and services which can be offered in U-Space or UTM. And I think that we will be in a position to make proposals, Maria, by the end of the year. Next year, not this year, the end of next year. We also think, and this was something which was mentioned several times, and Matthew just mentioned it, that we tend to look at drones as air vehicles. But in fact, we should look at a system of systems, meaning an air vehicle being part of a complete system, including UTM possibly, but also including energy, including logistics, but also including a multimodal dimension. And that's something that is really interesting, because I think when we are thinking about urban mobility, when we are thinking about services to the end users, very often this is a multimodal solution which has to be offered. And this is something new for us in EASA as well, and I think this is very promising, and this is something that we will definitely take into account for the future. Now, just to conclude, I was asked several times yesterday and today, what will we do with our EASA conference on drones next year? So there is this Amsterdam Drones Week, which will, I guess, continue next year. Am I right or not? Yes? So what I would like to propose is that if RAI invites us next year, that we would be more than pleased to hold this conference here again in Amsterdam, to have it done in conjunction with the exhibit, expo, and things like that you organize, which are, I think, quite complementary to our conference. What we would like to do, possibly, is to maybe open up the conference to everything which is related to urban mobility use space, to invite more stakeholders on this dimension, and also to use this opportunity to showcase what we are doing in Europe. We are talking about the 50-ish demonstrators. I think it would be extremely interesting and worthwhile that during this session we could showcase, demonstrate, explain what is being seen and done in the framework of those projects. So if that's something which is of interest to you, of course we would be more than happy to receive comments on this, but that would be the assumption that we would go for. Let me just finish by thanking wholeheartedly the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management, Rob Heuser and your team, for all the support, all the help, and all the steer that you gave to this conference. I would really like to thank you because I know it was a lot of effort. So, Rob, if you can join me here on stage. And maybe I can also thank Paul Riemens and the RAI team for everything that you organized, which was, I think, very successful and which projected an image of our activity, which is very dynamic and young. When you look at the races yesterday, I mean, the average age of the competitor was very, very low. So, Paul, if you can also join us. So, can we just have a round of applause for our two Dutch hosts? Thank you very much for your attendance. I wish you a safe journey home. Maybe next year by drone, we will see. I hope we will see each other very soon. Thank you very much.